we talk about, well, whatever comes to mind, anything that helps push back against the forces of nihilism and statism that are continually encroaching on our society. Now, we were supposed to have a guest today, someone who's had an abortion and was going to share her experience with that and kind of what's come after. Alas, due to life events beyond our control, she wasn't able to make it, but we're going to get her rescheduled as soon as we possibly can. But in the meantime, Krystle and I decided, you know what, we're still going to do a show, and we're going to talk about our good buddy, Beto. Everybody's favorite hit and run furry. And go ahead, Krystle.
It's always an inside joke.
Why are we talking about Beto tonight?
Hold on. Okay, but real quick, it's like the furry thing, like a inside meaning of, because it's like I have no idea what that means, or like how it came about. I unfortunately know what a furry means, but it's like I caused it to come about.
Because he's done the furry thing. It might have only been in the context of one of his shows, because everybody knows he had a punk band, and I think there was at least one show where they all dressed up as animals. I don't know if that's the extent of his furry experimentation or not. I kind of hope that it isn't, just because I really want lots of material for this, but that's all I can positively say.
Sadly, I doubt that's what it says. But no.
Yeah, we've never talked about Beto before tonight, I don't think.
No, we haven't. I think he might briefly come up when we had Nico and Shane on. But and the reason why Beto is on topic for tonight is not because of the furry thing. It's because he has fully admitted that he plans your AR-15s and AK-47s, I think.
It's like nobody started talking about it at all until no one started talking about AK-47s until like 3 weeks ago, when somebody had a gun that was modified to look like an AK-47 and use it in a shooting. I don't remember which one that was. I want to say it was El Paso or Dayton. Might have been Dayton.
Possibly it being El Paso, but
obviously, in all fairness to our opponents on the left, these things have gotten frequent enough that they're kind of running together.
Yeah, and I let's not get it twisted when we're doing with Beto here. we want these to stop. We just disagree on how to stop them.
Yes, considerably. So again, so Beto decided he was just gonna throw out hell yes, we're gonna take your AR-15s, and well, that ignited a little bit of a firestorm. I mean, he's selling T-shirts with it, so gay capitalism, I suppose. Yeah, no joke. He's selling T-shirts with that on it. So if you want to know who you're, who's on the opposite of the political spectrum, just look for people wearing that shirt. All 5 of them. Anyway, based on the amount of support it's getting in the polls.
But it's like those shirts came out the next day.
Yeah. Yep.
Like very.
I mean, in all honesty, it's a good. If he's trying to appeal to the radical left base, which obviously he is, that's a shirt that's going to sell to them. So again, yay capitalism! Right before he would try to institute a socialism.
Which to possibly this is possibly going to ruffle some feathers, but isn't the way he's talking and acting in the same way Trump acted in his campaign about anything and everything? Like that's
an interesting point.
That's something that crossed my mind like today at some point, where it's like Beto is basically starting to talk and get the same like fire enthusiasm in his talking about it that Trump did for everything he ever said. but it's like some people are accepting it from him, Trump.
Right, and that is interesting. He's almost saying, you know what? I'm just going to go full on over the top and try to do a progressive imitation of Trump, which Beto doesn't have the he doesn't have the screen presence, shall we say, that Trump does. There is no way that Beto walks in a room and just takes it over, unless he stands on a table or something. This is interesting because right away, a lot of the Democrat establishment and some of the other candidates, they got onto him. They're like, no, you're playing right into the GOP's hands. It's like, this is going to be played on, pro-Second Amendment commercials and campaign commercials for the next 10 years. I'm like, yeah, you're absolutely right. Because he said the part you're not supposed to say. You're not supposed to actually just come out and say it.
Yeah.
But how many of them have been talking about buybacks? They've, I think all but maybe one or two of the Democrat candidates for president have been talking about some sort of buyback, usually mandatory for what they deem assault weapons, which they can't even define what they mean that is. And what's the difference between we want to institute a mandatory buyback and hell yes, we're coming for your AR-15s? There is no difference. The only difference is in the wording, literally.
Yeah.
If it's a mandatory buyback, hell yes, they're coming for your AR-15s. And incidentally, everything else, because anytime they try to put in writing what an assault weapon is, they're talking about every semi-automatic weapon on the freaking planet, which incidentally is most firearms.
Yeah. Even to grant them, talking about just AR-15s and AK-47s, to grant that, like, okay, say Beto got in office and he did this, then what happens next? Our president doesn't want to take a step further and say, well, maybe we should take away the shotguns too. And, let's take away the pistols as well.
Yep.
And all the way until, let's just completely strip away the, because it's like, it's not going to lead to anywhere good, in my opinion.
It's not. I mean, we're already, in all honesty, we're already on the slippery slope because there have been enough restrictions and everything put in place on how easy it is to get a gun and what kind of guns you can and cannot have, especially in certain areas of the country. That we're on the slippery slope already. It's just we're close to the top of it yet, because up until recently, organizations like the NRA have not given so much as an inch at all. So. But an inch here and there has been given, and they're gonna run to take that next mile of the slope pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But it's really, really it's interesting that they have been getting bolder and bolder with their calls for some type of ban or confiscation. Of course, yes, they're hammering hard on the AR-15, which is odd because it's not even what's used in most mass shootings. Most mass shootings are still handguns.
Yeah. Or they're modified in some way. Like, it's not even just like a straight up, it's like it's fought and it's heavily modified to.
Absolutely. Yeah, and of course, there's been a lot of other stuff that has been going on from this. There was another representative in Texas. I forget his name off the top of my head, but he tweeted out, my AR-15 is ready for you, Beto, and
yeah,
that's a death threat. That's a death threat. You shouldn't have your gun. It's like, no, you're the one who threatened violence against him, and he's just saying, you're welcome to try. He's basically saying, yes, if you come to my house and try to steal my stuff, I'm going to shoot you. Which, incidentally, he's in Texas. He has every legal right to do that.
Yeah. And it's like, and I actually wanted to get your opinion on that because I've been thinking about it and I'm kind of like, I don't want to say I'm on the fence, but it's like I can kind of see both sides because on the one hand, I'm like, this is so obvious. This is just a bold retort. Like Beto's statement was a bold remark on what he plans to do. Like,
Right.
I'm sorry. There's no way Beto didn't know that that was just a bold statement back to him. There's no way he didn't know.
Obviously.
And either way, I think it was going way too far getting the FBI involved in this. It's like no. But on the other hand, it's kind of like I don't. It's weird because on the one hand, it's kind of like that's how everyone on the internet talks when they disagree about this. So it's like, of course, politicians are going to use the same talking and
Right.
whatnot. But on the other hand, I'm kind of like, well, I don't necessarily like it when, like, say, Trump does it. So I don't necessarily like it when this dude did it either. But it's like, it's almost like, unfortunately, that's kind of what politics when you're combating head to head with other candidates or other people. You get nasty, man.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. I mean, that's just the combination of politics and the internet is to use an overused word, is incredibly toxic.
Oh yeah.
But but of course, the plot thickens because, as you shared earlier, there was Beto's been asked about what to do about the AR-15s before, because he was talking about banning future purchases, but saying things like, if people already have them, they should use them responsibly, so on and so forth. There was an interview where he talked about that, and I'm gonna see if I can bring that up a minute. It's gonna take me a hot second here to get that link up.
We actually have the technology to share it.
Yeah.
But
we're trying it out though. We're trying it out. This is new to us here on Fighting the Void. Yeah. Doing other technology beyond just having our faces on the camera.
See, we have the technology to share this, but we don't have the technology for me to now look like a pixelated blob.
Well, when you live out in the sticks in the middle of the woods, I'm just saying.
One step at a time. It's so weird. Like the internet's been acting up the past couple of days. Like we had one day where none of us could connect to the Wi-Fi.
Oh my gosh.
Weird. Yeah, it was weird. And it's like, guys, I know I talk about living out in like the boonies or whatever, but we're technically not in the boonies. We're not that far from civilization.
Right. Okay, I've got that link up now, so let's see if I can share the screen. And actually, for anybody watching, I'd love feedback on whether or not this works well, because like I said, we're getting used to this sort of thing here on Fighting the Void. It's brand new technology thanks to this new program we're using, which so far I'm really, really liking. But okay, so there it is. We're going to go ahead and play it. I really hope the audio works, and you guys can keep this going at home. But anyway, here we go.
To be clear, they should have. If you purchase that AR-15, if you own it, keep it. Continue to use it responsibly. I think Texas has kids here in the United States. I own an AR-15. A lot of our listeners own AR-15s. Why should they not have them? To be clear, they should have it. If you purchase that AR-15,
turn the audio up, Ginger. It's too low.
What's that?
You need to turn the audio up. It's too low.
Is it? Okay, hold on. I'm going to turn up the. I'm not sure where it's capturing the audio from. So we might just have to continue to experiment with that further. But for those who can't hear it, the audio. It was an interview that Beto did on a show where somebody was asking him, what should you do with the AR-15? He's like, yes, you should have it. You should continue to use it responsibly, so on and so forth. So now all of a sudden he's all, we're going to come and we're going to take your guns.
Mm-hmm. Which, to kind of bring up a point that a devil's advocate would bring up, or someone who would try and give Beto the benefit of the doubt, that radio interview was from last year, so one could possibly change his position since then. However,
I believe is the terminology.
Someone like me who's cynical about politicians, I would argue he never really believed what he said before. He just wanted to get elected in Texas, which is a state that's well known for its more conservative views. And people who are, whether left or right, pretty fine with owning their guns. And others owning guns.
Exactly. And, but it does go to show there's been, as Jake pointed out in the chat, they're being honest now. Mm-hmm. Which, okay, only Beto's officially being honest, but as soon as they say mandatory buyback, they're saying the same thing. They're just saying it with different words. And there's been a growing trend in general with people on the left kind of letting the cat out of the bag. For a few years now, I've noticed more and more people being honest about abortion. Like lots of people I've seen saying, you know what? Yeah, it is a life and I don't care. That's where you get people. That's why you've seen people starting to define an unborn child as a parasite. Because they're still justifying it's like, well, it's a life, but I can still kill it because it's a parasite. It's feeding off of me. It's stealing my resources. Things like that. You get them saying, well, but the mother's rights trump those of the child, and so on and so forth. It's like, it's a life, and I don't care, is what they're saying. So the whole thing came from, the way they're presenting it has changed considerably to the extent that you even have like Ralph Northam now saying, oh, if the kid happens to survive the abortion, we'll take it back and club it like a baby seal. Anyway, and you get the same thing with implementing socialism. There, we've got Bernie, a serious contender, 2 elections in a row now, who is an openly declared socialist. And, you've got the squad and their whole deal. It's like they're being honest, and we're going to see how that really plays out.
Yeah. And it's like everyone's becoming more honest about the reasoning for the position, but no one's being honest about like the issue, which is kind of driving me bonkers because it's like have a mass shooting. What's causing it, and how can we fix it? Everyone's like, that's the I think that's the most frustrating thing for me with that issue is these keep happening over and over again, and it's like everyone just keeps recycling the same issues over the same talking points. No one's actually taking the time to sit down, talk about it, and try and figure out how can we how many of these mass shootings took place in an area where you're not supposed to have guns? You're not allowed to carry. It's illegal in those areas, and there was still a mass shooting.
Yeah.
So it's like,
honestly, it's
like how many of those people also got the guns illegally, or they got their hands on a gun legally because law enforcement didn't do their job and didn't listen to red flags.
A vast number of them have gotten their guns legally when there were enough warning signs where the government should have stepped in and acted by their own standards, by their own laws. They're not enforcing what's already on the books, which if they did, could at least potentially have stopped at least some of these mass shootings before they even started. And that's what's particularly frustrating. We want more laws? Really? Why do you want more laws? Because honestly, the only way that the only reason they want more laws is because, yes, they are edging to flat out gun ban, period, end of story. To the point where the only thing you'll be allowed to have is a flipping musket.
And I think that's what's it's and it's like I started thinking about it while we were doing this podcast and whatever. It frustrates me to no end that like people do bring up the signs. People do point out, hey, this dude might be a danger. There's how many red flags pointed out to the cops and whatnot, and they don't do anything. And it's it's frustrating because
we even got the ones like I think Parkland and I think Odessa, the most recent one, where the guys themselves will actually say, "I am a danger." They'll actually report themselves. Odessa guy, he even called in to the FBI himself and said, "I'm going to do something. Y'all might want to think about stopping me."
The theater shooter was also red flags, and they didn't do anything. And it's frustrating, and I actually forgot the point I was gonna bring up, which is also frustrating. But that's what I was gonna say. Because let's be completely honest, it's hard enough to get people to speak up as it is anyway. Because how often people have to tell others, if you see something that might the authorities might want to know about because it might be a danger, say something, and it's and I personally, because and it's I don't, Ginger, you could give me your opinion on this. I don't know if this would be a contributing factor to the issue of getting people to speak up, but so often, growing up and whatnot, people have it almost grained in their heads, mind your own business, snitches get stitches, don't, it's not your problem, don't deal with it. And then it's now we're having an issue where, okay, now we're having people who are showing clear red flags, and people after the fact are saying that they noticed these, but they don't say anything in the meantime. Well, so it's
it's because what exactly do you say? Because until somebody's actually done something, there's no crime.
That's true.
And this is something where Jake again pointed out in the chat that at least part of the issue is the inadequacy of mental health care in general in the United States. Yeah. There is no system by, at least I'm not aware of any system by where you can go, call a phone number and go, this guy kind of scary. If there's any way we can get him checked out, evaluated, whatever, I don't know, but it would be helpful. And to be honest, that is a little bit scary to me because I don't like the idea of being able to flat out incarcerate, infringe anyone's rights without really, really good reason. And, that person over there is a little weird. I don't know that that's sufficient. Now, if a little weird means, okay, you know what, we're going to take a closer look at maybe his social media and everything and be like, all right, yeah, you know what, there are some warning signs here. We're going to at least, talk to him and, offer him counseling. I don't know how far to go with that. I know you used to be able to forcibly incarcerate people if they were a danger to themselves and others. But we did get rid of that. And let's be honest, that is a system that was abused then.
Yeah.
How much, I don't know. It may have been very small. It may have been large. I don't know either way.
If I recall, it was quite a bit. Those with mental health issues were really mistreated.
Well, yeah, I don't mean the mistreatment that would happen within the asylums. I mean abusing the system of forcible incarceration in the first place, like people being there that really shouldn't have been.
I could imagine more often than you'd probably think, but probably I don't know. I don't know either. I'm just assuming based on other facts.
Right. I've got zero data on that. But just based on human nature, of course, it's abused to some degree. It's a question of, honestly, it's a question of how much. But I do also, I'm always a little bit the mantra of mental health. You hear that a lot, but just like sensible gun control, it strikes me as a very vague phrase that's ill-defined, and nobody is really, at least from what I've seen, set about trying to define what it means. I think the one exception actually would be Andrew Klavan, who has talked about how we would be better off if we had something more like the old school asylums and everything, where you could be like, you know what, you a loon bag, you got to come over here, you're going to get some treatment. Otherwise, I'm not seeing a lot of there's no form to that idea at all. It's just like mental health is an issue. We should do something about that.
Yeah.
Does anyone have any ideas?
Yeah, it's honestly, I think it's still just one side of the issue too that's influencing.
Right.
All
It is only one side of the issue.
And you're right. It would be nice if there was a way people could actually like share something without it really. But basically, what you described, like they can phone something anonymously and whatnot, and they can they have steps to like check it out and like a plan of how to handle it and whatnot. But I would argue to a degree with the first part of calling it anonymously. You're already able to call into the police for anonymous tips.
Right. That's true.
So I don't know. It's just a far complicated issue than anyone's willing to acknowledge.
It is. And I think it's fair to say, no matter what we do, I make this point when talking about energy policy all the time, there's always a trade-off. There's always something, there's always a negative to any policy position that you take.
Oh, yeah.
And it does kind of come down to, does the negative outweigh the positive?
Yeah.
And I do think we should at least look at some sort of reporting and whatnot for people who are showing clear signs of red flags. But again, I'm also highly skeptical of things like red flag laws.
Yeah.
Where you've got, there's already been a few places in some states that people have been reported on red flag laws through red flag laws and just had their guns flat out taken away. Boom. We're here for your stuff. And, there's no due process. There's no proper evaluation or anything. It's just done. And that's not great.
No. Honestly, there's no one perfect answer to this.
No.
There isn't.
No. And Jake points that there's that Stefan Molyneux has a big video on mental health, which, to be honest, my opinion of Molyneux is, I'm sure I'm not pronouncing his name correctly.
No, it's right, Stefan Molyneux.
Yeah. Now, I'm not a huge fan, to put it lightly, mostly because I think he's taken, and I don't want to go too far down this tangent, but I think he's taken a lot of his ideas and a lot of his positions and just run too far in the wrong direction with them.
Yeah.
Plus, the way that I would think about it, to the point that he's upset about women wearing lipstick or something that I saw recently. I'm like, what is happening?
He's drinking some sort of weird Kool-Aid, and it's like he compared women wearing lipstick to like a guy wearing a fake bulge. Like I don't.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember that. I think he's been getting a little high on his own supply lately. And but regardless, that doesn't mean that there's still a lot of his stuff that should be at least looked at and considered, I think. Like, I know one of the big things that he's come under fire for is talk about IQ differences between races and whatnot, which, as far as I know, that data is in fact accurate. Although I don't know that data takes proper consideration of cultural differences that that encourage or discourage, academic achievement and everything. Like the difference between, Asians and African Americans, for example. There's a measured IQ difference, but there's also the fact that Asians highly, highly, highly stress academic achievement massively, and large portions of African American culture not so much. Now you want to get the reasons for that and everything. You're delving really deep into the weeds.
Yeah,
a whole other ball of wax.
You're talking nature versus nurture, and
Exactly.
let's not go down that road.
Yeah. Well, and Shapiro, when actually addressing Molyneux, and probably I think it would apply to Jonathan Haidt as well. Haidt, however you say his name. You also talked a lot about the IQ differences between races. That IQ in and of itself is only good for so much.
Mm-hmm.
That it doesn't necessarily. It may be a fair assessment of your intelligence. It's certainly a fair assessment of your knowledge. But intelligence. Let's grant that it's a fair assessment of intelligence, but it's not a fair assessment of ambition. Mm-hmm. And being able to do anything with that intelligence, different thing. But anyway, let's pull back from that. Let's get back to Beto-ness. So why is Beto? Why is Beto all hell? Yes, we'll take your AR-15s.
I feel like you'd be better to answer that because I really haven't followed too closely to the details. I'm gonna assume though he believes it's gonna stop, the mass shootings and the gun crime and whatnot.
Well, there's one thing where I think that is his honest position. Whether he's honest about what it'll actually do and whether he thinks it'll have the effect that he wants or not is another matter entirely. They're like we were saying earlier, they're honest about their positions, but they're still not honest in their arguments.
Yeah.
There's a big difference there. It's like, I definitely want to do this. Now, all of my reasons I'm going to use to support why we should do this are all BS. Anyway, but the real reason I think that he's like actually being, as they say, speaking the quiet part out loud, and with such Trumpian flair, as you pointed out, is because his campaign is on the rocks. He's hoping to get one last gasp of relevance. This is his last attempt to rebrand Beto. This is Beto 3.0. And if he doesn't gain any traction with this little stunt, going after that 0.00001% of the Swalwell vote, he's done. His campaign is done. He knows it, and this is his last attempt to give it a little shot in the yard.
He's trying to bounce back from that video of him making burgers with English muffins. And
if there was ever anything that warranted the presence of an AR-15, I'm telling
you. So he failed with the relatability videos of him changing attire in his nice dress clothes, and he failed with the burger thing. So now he's going full Trump. He's going Trump but liberal. And I would be curious to know, because this came out during the. Did he go on before or after Andrew Yang?
I don't know.
Because if he went on after Yang, I would be curious. Granted, this probably wouldn't fully work because I don't know how much they know of what their competitors are going to say in the town hall prior to. And I'm pretty sure he had this plan to make this statement days beforehand if shirts were available the next day. But I would be curious if there was some possibility he caught wind of what Andrew Yang was, which if you guys missed that, Andrew Yang basically said that he was going to pay 10 families next year $1,000. Wait, was it 1,000 or 10,000?
1,000 a month.
1,000 a month, which is totally not bribing. Not bribing. But
no. So totally not trying to buy. Well, look at it this way: he's buying probably at most 15 votes with that. So,
But you know, I would be curious if Beto caught wind of that and he was trying to find some way to upstage Yang.
Well, I'm glad you brought up Yang and his gang, because in the theme of would-be presidential candidates who, campaign isn't really gaining any traction and make a last bid, pitch for a Hail Mary for relevance. Andrew Yang. that was that whole, I'm going to start my freedom dividend early and pay it out of my campaign funds, $1,000 a month to 10 families for a full year. Okay. Leaving I'm obviously buying votes thing aside, leaving that aside, this is the kind of thing you do when you want to when you're desperate for relevance. You take the one thing that's gotten you some notoriety and you decide to turn it up to freaking 15, which is exactly what it's doing here. And as far as, whether it's legal or not, honestly, I'm perfectly fine with it. I assume it is. I'm assuming it does meet a legality standard. But if it doesn't, well, okay, whatever. I don't care much one way or the other as far as that goes, because it's obvious what he's doing. He's saying, please pay attention to me. And he's looking for campaign ads. He's going to give this to, 10 families. And exactly what he's going to do is he's going to get them to tell their stories on camera. And these are going to be campaign ads for him, assuming he makes it to the next debate.
Yeah. Yang is, I guess this would win some people over because it would win people over in the sense of, hey, he's actually sticking to his word. But
and he's putting his money where his mouth is. Get credit where it's due.
But it's like, I don't know, for me personally, and again, I don't know if this is just because I'm cynical or what, but just like to a degree, I can see why people like Yang.
Right.
Because he seems the most genuine and kind out of everyone on there. But it's just like I haven't been able to like sip the Yang Kool-Aid and thinking like, oh yeah, if I had to pick a Democrat candidate, it'd be either him or Tulsi. Like those debates of like, if we had to pick one, who would it? I haven't been able to sip that Kool-Aid because it's like, okay, he's transparent and he's sticking to his word. I just don't like any of his freaking policies.
No, his policies are free everything for everybody, or more money for everybody coming from the government. Where it's coming from, wherever government money comes from, I guess. I'm pretty sure there's a secret money tree orchard buried beneath the Smithsonian, and that's where the government actually gets its money to dole out to everybody.
But it's just like I don't know. It's just like, yeah, he's nice, but it's like at the same time, I'm just like, I don't like him for candidate. Like I can't get. It's weird. I almost feel like I'd rather have someone I don't like, but with policies that I do could possibly actually be elected and genuine. I guess it's the whole part of the voting for someone and whatnot. But it's like I don't know. I can't sip the Yang Kool-Aid. I can't do it.
Nor should you. Nor should you. But yeah, so I'm sort of curious. Now, let's just say we get one of these yahoos does in fact get elected. Heaven forbid one of these yahoos gets elected next year. And also the Democrats take the Senate. They're openly talking about getting rid of filibuster and everything like that. So essentially, there would be no more check and balance against, just a slim majority, literally a majority of one, being able to cram down whatever it is they want.
Mm-hmm.
They do. Let's say they pass a gun ban.
Yeah.
What happens then?
I can hardly stomach that. like, I'm trying to think, and it's like, I'm just like, all I can think of is, I don't want this.
Nope, I don't want it either. No.
Like,
what I think,
like,
huh?
Go ahead.
I don't think they pass a full-on gun ban right away. I just don't think they'll do it. What I do think is that they pass a very loosely worded set of red flag laws. And maybe some other situations. Maybe they pass like an AR-15 ban, like you can't buy anymore, but if you have them, you're okay. That's the most they do at first.
Yeah.
But then, because of this very loosely worded red flag law, they go after a couple people. And there'll be people that are just sketchy enough to where a lot of people go, well, I can understand that.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe those people even fight. Now, if those people wind up, the guns get confiscated and there's no shots fired or anything like that, then they just ramp it up, do a couple more. Maybe a little less sketchy. Just a little. Still a little weird, They get you used to it. They we're the frog in the boiling water, and they slowly dial up the temperature. But somebody fires back. Then it does become, we're looking at full out ban.
Mm-hmm.
Full out, we're coming for everything you have. And the thing is, they'll keep turning up the temperature until that happens. At which point, yes, there will be a ban. They will come for everything you have. In which case, it's going to be a matter of what do you do? Because the whole thing is, people talk about, that'll lead to a civil war and everything. And, okay, potentially. But also potentially, because it's not like there's this big, huge organization, Second Amendment supporters and everything, that are ready to mobilize as soon as the gun ban is passed. That doesn't exist. There is no massive organization of people that are already connected with a plan just in case this happens. There's small groups here and there, and those are the sketchy ones they'll go after in the first place.
Well, no, but it could be another North versus South type thing.
It won't be. It won't be that. Whatever happens, it won't be that. It won't be clearly defined lines or anything like that. I'd rather it were, because then there would be order. If a civil war does break out, it's going to be ugly. It's going to be messy. It's going to be city by city, region by region, even neighborhood by neighborhood. It's going to be ugly. I really don't want that to happen. But at the same time, if enough people, because like I said, there's no massive organization that could organize to resist a government tyranny. It does essentially rely on each individual being willing to stand up. But how many people really are going to be willing to stand up, hoping that everyone else does, when they're looking at, I'm looking at best going to jail, getting my family destroyed, all of that. That's if I don't die. You're looking at, us one or two people versus a SWAT team every time. That's not. I honestly, what I think is most likely to happen, you'll get a lot of people who just go, you know what? I'm not dying for this, and we'll give up the guns, and the government will be able to install something of a tyranny. And then those who still have some, then it becomes then it becomes the ugly civil war, but not with nearly as many people as could potentially be. So yeah, it's no matter how you slice it, it's ugly. It's going to be mean. It's going to be nasty. Again, assuming that, because again, this scenario does require Democrats having control of all three houses, and with them implementing a couple of laws. This whole nightmare scenario is based on a lot of ifs and thens and buts and maybes. Yeah. So take that into consideration. I'm not saying this is definitely what's going to happen here. I'm not saying that. I'm gaming a certain set of events out. Yeah. There's any number of variables that could prevent it from going that way, and I hope any number of those variables happen to prevent it going from that way, up to and including SMOD. So
yeah, and kind of going back to the a much less grim what if. I would be curious to Ginger, because I don't remember if you shared what when we had TL on. Of all, and I know you and I don't really like any of them, but out of all the Democrat candidates right now, which one, as it stands right now, would you prefer to have the nomination?
Ones that are serious, ones that are actually that were on the debate stage, or ones that are still actually have a campaign, but they don't have enough support to make the debate stage.
Everyone with a active campaign.
Okay. That's probably how I feel. Yeah. Honestly, that's kind of be a tie between Tulsi and Marianne Williamson, if you believe it or not.
Really?
Yeah, because I think that I think she's got a much better finger on the pulse of things than a lot of the others. I think she's just wrong-headed. Like, I think she honestly believes what she's saying. To be perfectly honest, I really do. I don't think that she's a cynical politician. But I think her positions are wrong about everything, but that's because she's been drinking lefty Kool-Aid forever. Tulsi, some of her positions are less extreme than most of the left, which is good. Yeah. But I also see a bit of a cynical politician in her.
Yeah.
I'm not sure she's completely honest with the way she presents her positions. Like there was a brief dust up recently about how she's, and again, this falls right under the heading of last gasp ditch for relevance. She's just doing it in a different direction because she sees an opening where she's open to restrictions on third trimester abortions, which, is anathema to the progressive left. However, you pay close attention. What would those restrictions actually look like? I'm pretty sure they'd look like unicorns. Which is to say, they ain't real.
Well, okay, but like now I'm just like picturing like in a like doctor's office, like a unicorn, like standing over to the side, and it's like the woman's talking to the doctor, and it's like like she's like, I don't know, man, like I know I've gone this far into pregnancy, but it's like I'm starting to really think about this, and it's like the unicorn just like gets in between the woman and the doctor, and it's like, hold up, nah. Like it's a talking unicorn with a deep voice, okay? It's a male unicorn, okay? And it's like talking to him like, nah, you got this. Nah.
No, you really shouldn't. But if you really need to, I'll be stepping over here into the corner, which is pretty much what I think she means by restrictions.
Oh no, I was more so going a literal unicorn restricting the woman from getting an abortion. Oh no, you froze. So I'm just gonna keep everyone occupied while Ginger's frozen. No, I was going. There you are.
I'm back. I didn't freeze. You froze.
You froze.
There,
dude. I have the live stream pulled up. You were the one that froze. But
whatever.
no, Ginger, I'm saying you put in my head the image of a little unicorn restricting a third trimester woman from getting an abortion. Like the unicorn just like giving the woman a pep talk, like, nah, we got this. You can have this baby. Great mother. You got this. Like,
well, you're welcome for that.
It really makes me happy.
But yeah, I think that also is kind of her last gasp for relevance, is, you know, trying to head towards the middle a little bit. And also, this all comes from an interview with her interview with Dave Rubin, and you know, she also said, she's like, yeah, frankly, the Democrat positions on immigration, they are open borders. They don't say open borders, but look at it, it's open borders. You know, again, she's saying the quiet part out loud, the stuff you're not supposed to actually admit to. What you get the progressives, no one's ever said open borders. Oh my gosh. That's what every one of your policies actually means. You know it. I know it. Let's stop pretending here. Okay. If you want to decriminalize crossing the border without, you know, going through the system and everything, that is open borders. Because if it's not criminalized, you can't incarcerate them, which means they can just walk over, wave to the Border Patrol agents as they go by, and go on through to wherever it is they want. You know, whether they're just an honest family looking for a better life, or a whole bunch of MS-13 people with a bunch of child slaves in tow. Come on, guys. Let's stop being stupid. Which, of course, again, the progressives were upset about her saying, you know, admitting the whole open borders thing and saying that she's not for that. But again, last gasp for relevance, which seems to be the theme that we're discussing the most on this particular podcast, is, you know, Democrat presidential candidates striving desperately for relevance. Like, they think that if just this one thing gains traction, then by golly, I'm in there. I can knock out everybody else. And like, no, you can't.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. This is a Biden, Warren, Bernie race, and y'all, let's face it, y'all are auditioning for, and maybe they know this actually. Maybe they know they're all auditioning for vice president. That may be what's really going on there.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm kind of in a similar boat to you. I not with Miriam, but I feel like I said her name wrong, but whatever. You guys know who I'm referring to. But I'm kind of leaning more towards, if I had to pick one of them, it'd be Tulsi Gabbard, and it's I still need to look more into her policies. Obviously, the one talked about a lot is her anti-war stance.
Right.
Which this is where I would say there's the opinion change over time. Is in her case, because I don't know if you saw Ginger, but people were pointing out how like, well, in the past she wasn't anti-war, so
right.
Like, and it's like in her case, because I think that was like quite a while ago, wasn't it?
I don't know exactly, but I think Shane and Nico actually brought that up, that there's some discussion whether or not she's really anti-war or whether this is just a popular position she's taking.
Yeah. But you know, that kind of makes me like her. And I need to, like I said, I need to look into policies more. But the fact that a lot of people whose opinions I do trust and I believe wouldn't steer me wrong are leaning towards Tulsi, so that's another point towards her. And the fact that most everyone else in the Democrat Party doesn't really like her, including seemingly the DNC themselves.
Right. Which, I mean, that is definitely a mark in her favor, that's for sure.
That's kind of another point, too, because it's kind of like, oh, okay, so the establishment doesn't really like her. So that's another point. But it's just the one thing I get stuck on is, yes, it's great that she's anti-war, but for me, I mean, again, I still pick her out of everyone else, but for me, is anti-war big enough for me to say we're in a world where I completely the Republican candidates or the Libertarian candidate. Let's say those two are like absolutely no's for me, and I have to decide whether Tulsi or Ryden. The one thing I get stuck on is, okay, for one, as Nico and Shane brought up when they were on our podcast, which actually with that. Two, I personally don't know because she has a lot of. This is another thing I do know. Her financial, her fiscal policies are very leaning more towards socialism.
Oh yeah.
So for me, it's kind of like, is anti-war a big enough thing for me to give me the vote? A lot of other stuff I do not like and do not want at all.
Right.
That's and it sounds silly to say because like war is a pretty big thing compared to like fiscal policies and whatnot. But for me, it's more so okay. Which would have a long-term effect if it were enacted. If she put into place anti-war things, how long would that stay compared to the social-esque fiscal policies? Because I don't know. Again, this is probably me being cynical, but I don't see any anti-war policy enacted lasting long. I just don't.
No. Also, it's as a question. There's a question of how broadly one defines anti-war. It seems like it should be simple, but I saw a lot of people who were very happy with Trump's apparently anti-war stance during the campaign, who were very upset when he dropped a few bombs on Syria, chemical attacks early in his presidency. I was like, that's not a war. Now, I don't want to go into a full-on boots on the ground type situation in Syria. But I've got no problem with, you know what? Here's your box. You get outside of your box. We put you back in your box.
Yeah.
I got no problem with a containment type policy. None whatsoever. One that involves just, you know what? Y'all done screwed up. Boom. Don't do it again. I'm okay with that. To be perfectly honest. But I'm not okay with the neocon style. We're going to go in and we're going to topple your government and we're going to teach you about democracy. And you're just going to, the whole nation building type stuff. Bad idea. I can see why they thought it might work at the time, but at the very least, his, freaking, 20 years of history has shown that it don't work.
Yeah.
It's just not going to happen.
Yeah. And to be completely honest, I feel like when it comes to policies like that, I'm probably leaning more towards you where it's like the little box, like if you step back. But it's like I'm like, let's be frankly honest here. I'm 19. I'm still developing my fully rounded opinions on these things. So I don't even have a full. I could not give you grand detail my political thoughts when it comes to like policies like that. But I can tell you right now. Yeah.
Go ahead. Finish your point.
It's never gonna change. But it's like the fact is, I am much younger compared to you, so I have much more learning than say you do in your opinions. Anyway, that's like the point I want to bring up is because one thing that always frustrates me with the whole anti-war policy is that, and again, I need to look into Tulsi in more detail, but what frustrates me is everyone, a lot of people that I hear, they want completely pulled out, almost isolation thing.
Yep.
I do not see how that is possible with I can't remember what conversation if this was on a different podcast episode of ours or if this was in a private conversation, but I remember talking to someone and I brought up we have touched so much in the Middle East and we have disrupted so much and we are involved in so much outside of the Middle East as well. There is no feasible way for us to completely pull out. I don't see how it's feasible. And even if someone actually does manage to do that, let's be honest, the governments are like really, they have a lot of hands in other places as well. So think of how that's going to look compared to us. And they're all going to be like, so the U.S. just came into the Middle East, did all this disruption, left all this mess, and now they're done completely doing anything in it, and they just left the Middle East, us to a certain degree, to clean it up. I don't think I love the U.S. anymore. Let's go try and do something to them. Like it's not going to turn out well because it's if they
straight up
lose
everything in the Middle East all at once would be a horrible idea. And incidentally, that's something that even Ron Paul recognized because he was asked about this back when he was running for president. And he was like, yeah, you can't do all of this, all at once. It's going to take time. We're going to have to like slowly move in that direction, which was one of the things I respected about him was that he had his principles. And, and his principles would be like, you know what, leave these people alone. But he also recognized that it was going to take a lot of work and time to get from here to there. And you know what? Okay, fine. And there are certain places where I do think we should pull out. I was just having this conversation earlier today about Afghanistan. And while my feelings are mixed, I am conflicted. But at the end of the day, I think we've been there. We've been, Krystle, we've been there almost since before you were born.
Yeah.
And we have, it's not, we toppled the Taliban, but it really hasn't gotten better since then. It's just still this constant back and forth, this fighting over rocks over there. And it's never going to end. And the only thing to do, there are two things to do at this point. One is to go in full on jackbooted heel and take it over and essentially make it a territory of the United States and rule it with a complete iron fist. Two, pull out and be like, you know what? Y'all got your own problems. You make your problems our problems again, we'll be back. Don't recommend you do that.
Yeah.
See you later.
Yeah.
But anywho's, there you go. And my whole point also is, you know what? If you ever get to a point where everything is completely developed, either you've done a lot more reflecting at everything than I have, or you're full of crap. Because I'm still reevaluating and trying to clearly define certain political and philosophical positions, and I'm 42. and I've read Plato and Aristotle when I didn't have to. Okay.
I know I'll never stop evolving, but just like my point is that I'm still so young in the whole realm of politics and whatnot that it's like I know much less than you do, but it's just like, but I just had a long-winded answer of why I wouldn't even be fully happy with Tulsi. Right. I basically just rambled, dude.
Nothing wrong with that. Nothing. We do a lot of that around here, and that does bring me to the point that we are a bit over time here, but that's okay. As long as we're having a good conversation and everything, we're happy to fight the void a little bit longer. But I think that does bring us to the end for today. And as you might have noticed, our main theme for the episode was Democrat politicians making their last gasp for relevance, most prominently Beto and him coming for your AR-15s, which I assure you won't be happening immediately. And he's not going to be the guy doing it anyway. He ain't going to be president. Let's be honest. It's never going to happen.
But he keeps making those biscuit burgers. He's not going to be president.
Biscuit burgers. I like that. I like that a lot. Now, next week, we're going to have Jeff Dornick back on the show. If you recall, he was he was on a little while ago talking about socialism, injustice. I can't remember the exact name of the book, but that sounds about right. A bunch of people talking about the way that socialists are essentially infiltrating the evangelical churches. And he's going to be back on to kind of help us understand a little bit about what evangelicalism actually is. Because it's a word I've heard a lot, but I've never heard anybody try to define it. And so we're going to get into that a little bit, and I'm sure we'll get into the little bit of the differences between Protestants and Catholics and such, because that's always fun, good times. Go ahead, Krystle.
Yeah, and I'm going to be missing that episode.
That's right, you are.
Yeah, because of a impromptu travel to visit Lucas's family.
Yes, yes, you will be out for probably the next just 1 week or 2 weeks.
Just 1 week. Just the one episode.
Okay. All right. So you'll be back for when we have Faith on.
Yeah.
Yes. Which also we got Faith more rescheduled for the 29th. So you'll be seeing Faith more. And if you want to learn a little bit more about Henry VIII and General Tudor history, then would be a good time to tune in. So next week we've got Jeff Dornick talking about evangelicalism, and the week after, we've got Faith Moore talking about Henry VIII and some more Tudor history to help broaden our minds a little bit in our historical perspective. So until next week, thank you very much for tuning in, and keep fighting the good fight.